In a world of constant distraction, endless stimulation, and relentless pressure to achieve, the ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers timeless wisdom that can transform how we approach our daily challenges. Dating back to 3rd century BCE Athens, Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or enduring hardship with a stiff upper lip. It's a practical philosophy designed to help us flourish by focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. The Stoics, figures like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, weren't isolated philosophers theorizing in ivory towers. They were people of action. An emperor leading during plague and war, a former slave who rose to become a respected teacher, and a statesman navigating the treacherous politics of imperial Rome. They developed their ideas not as abstract concepts, but as practical tools for living well amid life's inevitable challenges. This guide explores 12 fundamental Stoic principles that can help you perform at your best, regardless of your circumstances. These aren't quick fixes or temporary motivational strategies. They're enduring practices that, when applied consistently, can transform not just what you do, but who you are. Let's explore how ancient wisdom can help us thrive in modern times. Secret 1. The dichotomy of control. Focus only on what you can change. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Epictetus. Understanding the dichotomy. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a fundamental insight. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. This simple observation, when fully understood and applied, transforms how we approach every aspect of life. The Stoics identified that the only things truly within our control are our judgments, actions, desires, and aversions. Essentially, our internal responses to the world. Everything else, other people's opinions, external events, outcomes, reputation, wealth, health, while important, ultimately lies beyond our direct control. This distinction is crucial because when we invest our energy and emotional well-being in things outside our control, we set ourselves up for anxiety, frustration, and a sense of helplessness. Conversely, when we focus on what we can control, our choices, responses, and efforts, we reclaim our agency and effectiveness. Practical application. Morning reflection exercise. Begin each day by asking yourself these questions. What matters to me today that is within my control? What potential challenges might I face that are outside my control? How can I direct my energy exclusively toward what I can influence? The control filter. When facing a problem, try this 3-step process. Ask, is this within my control, partly within my control, or entirely outside my control? For matters entirely outside your control, practice acceptance and redirect your energy. For matters partly within your control, identify the specific aspects you can influence and focus exclusively on those. Release statement. When caught in worry about something outside your control, create a personal release statement such as, "This is not for me to control. I release my attachment to this outcome and focus instead on my actions and responses." The modern challenge. In our hyper-connected world, the line between what we can and cannot control often blurs. Social media presents us with an endless stream of events, opinions, and developments that feel proximate and relevant, but remain entirely outside our sphere of influence. The 24-hour news cycle creates the illusion that we should be engaged with and concerned about countless issues beyond our capacity to affect. The Stoic practice of the dichotomy of control is perhaps more relevant now than ever before. By consciously choosing where to direct our attention and energy, toward what we can influence rather than what merely concerns us, we reclaim our psychological freedom and capacity for effective action. Going deeper, the dichotomy of control isn't about becoming passive or indifferent. Rather, it's about investing our full energy in what we can affect, while developing equanimity toward what we cannot. This distinction allows us to act more decisively and effectively in areas where our efforts matter, while letting go of the psychological burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. When we truly internalize this principle, we stop being victims of circumstance and become agents of our own experience. Our sense of well-being becomes increasingly independent of external events, rooted instead in our consistent choice to focus on what we can change. Secret 2, negative visualization. Prepare for challenges before they arise. Begin each day by telling yourself, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." Marcus Aurelius. The practice of premeditatio malorum. The Stoics developed a powerful technique called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, a practice of intentionally visualizing potential setbacks, challenges, and even catastrophes. While modern positive thinking approaches often discourage negative thinking, the Stoics recognize that mentally rehearsing difficulties serves several crucial purposes. It reduces shock and emotional reactivity when challenges actually occur. It diminishes anxiety by facing fears directly rather than avoiding them. It allows for advanced preparation and strategic thinking. It cultivates gratitude for what we currently have, but might someday lose. This isn't pessimism, but practical realism. By acknowledging life's fragility and the inevitability of obstacles, we strengthen our psychological resilience and enhance our ability to respond effectively when difficulties arise. Practical application. Morning adversity practice. For 3 to 5 minutes each morning, visualize potential challenges in your day ahead. Ask yourself, what could go wrong in my most important task today? What unexpected obstacles might emerge? How would I respond if these difficulties arose? Gratitude through loss. Once weekly, imagine losing something or someone you value, perhaps your home, job, health, or a relationship. Allow yourself to fully experience the imagined loss, then return to present reality with renewed appreciation. Resilience visualization. Before important events or projects, take time to anticipate technical difficulties that might arise, people who might oppose or undermine your efforts, your own potential mistakes or limitations, external factors beyond your control that could affect outcomes. For each scenario, develop a specific, calm response rather than merely worrying. The modern challenge. In a culture that often promotes unrestricted optimism and the avoidance of negative thoughts, this Stoic practice runs counter to prevailing wisdom. Yet our aversion to considering difficulties often leaves us psychologically unprepared when they inevitably occur. Modern psychology confirms the value of what Stoics intuited. Studies on defensive pessimism show that strategically anticipating potential problems can reduce anxiety and improve performance for many individuals. The key distinction is that we're not just worrying. We're mentally rehearsing constructive responses to challenges. Going deeper. Negative visualization also serves as an antidote to hedonic adaptation, our tendency to quickly become accustomed to what we have and take it for granted. By regularly imagining the loss of what we value, we renew our appreciation for what might otherwise fade into the background of our awareness. This practice doesn't diminish joy or promote pessimism. Instead, it heightens our engagement with life by reminding us of its impermanence. As Seneca noted, he who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man. Similarly, by acknowledging the vulnerability of what we cherish, we engage more fully and gratefully with what we have now. Secret 3. Voluntary discomfort. Build resilience through intentional challenge. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" Seneca. The power of willing hardship. The ancient Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, deliberately experiencing inconvenience, physical discomfort, and simple living, not for masochistic tendencies, but as practical training for life's inevitable hardships. By intentionally embracing difficult conditions, they reduced fear of discomfort and adversity, discovered their own resilience and capabilities, diminished attachment to luxury and comfort, prepared themselves for circumstances they hoped would never arrive, developed gratitude for everyday conveniences. This practice acknowledges a fundamental truth. Comfort, while pleasant, weakens us over time. Just as muscles atrophy without resistance, Our psychological resilience diminishes without regular challenge. Practical application: cold exposure. End your daily shower with 30 to 60 seconds of cold water. Notice the initial shock, your body's resistance, and how quickly you adapt to the discomfort. Fasting practice: experiment with intermittent fasting. Consult healthcare providers first. Begin with skipping a single meal, then gradually extend to longer periods. Pay attention not just to hunger, but to your emotional reactions to it. Convenience fast. Designate one day per month as a convenience fast where you temporarily eliminate modern conveniences, perhaps avoiding elevators, walking instead of driving, cooking from scratch rather than ordering delivery, or reading physical books instead of using digital devices. Comfort zone expansion. Weekly. Identify one small action that pushes beyond your comfort zone. Speaking up at a meeting, initiating a difficult conversation, or trying an activity that intimidates you. The modern challenge. We live in a world engineered for comfort and convenience. From temperature-controlled environments to on-demand entertainment and instant gratification in countless forms, modern life shields us from discomfort more thoroughly than any previous generation experienced. While these conveniences offer real benefits, they also create a widening gap between our comfort-oriented daily lives and our capacity to handle inevitable difficulties. When hardship does arrive, whether personal challenges like illness or collective ones like economic downturns, we often lack the psychological calluses that would help us endure with equanimity. Going deeper. Voluntary discomfort isn't about punishing yourself or proving your toughness to others. It's a private practice of expanding your comfort zone and discovering that discomfort itself, separate from any meaning we assign to it, is temporary and manageable. This practice also helps distinguish between genuine needs and conditioned preferences. Many things we consider necessities are simply comforts we've grown accustomed to. By temporarily removing these comforts, we recalibrate our relationship with convenience and develop greater adaptability. Perhaps most importantly, voluntary discomfort reminds us that our well-being depends less on external circumstances than on our internal responses. As we discover we can be content even in challenging conditions, we develop a more stable sense of self that isn't dependent on perfect circumstances. Secret 4. The view from above. Gain perspective through cosmic awareness. He who does not know what the world is does not know where he is, and he who does not know for what purpose the world exists does not know who he is, nor what the world is. Marcus Aurelius. Expanding your perspective. The Stoics practiced what's sometimes called the view from above or cosmic consciousness, an exercise in mental expansion where one imagines viewing oneself, one's concerns, and entire human drama from progressively greater distances. This perspective shift serves to reduce the perceived magnitude of personal problems, reveal the triviality of many daily concerns, highlight our connection to humanity and nature, remind us of our brief place in cosmic time, inspire wonder at the vast unfolding of existence. This isn't nihilism or a dismissal of human experience. Rather, it's a recalibration that allows us to see our lives in proper proportion, neither inflating minor troubles nor overlooking our meaningful place in the greater whole. Practical application. The expanding circle meditation. Spend 5 to 10 minutes gradually expanding your awareness from your immediate surroundings to the cosmos. Begin with awareness of your body and immediate environment. Expand to imagine your neighborhood from above. Continue outward to your city, region, continent. Visualize Earth as a whole spinning in space. Expand further to the solar system, galaxy, and beyond. Return slowly to your present location with refreshed perspective. Temporal expansion. Practice extending your awareness across time. Consider what existed in your current location 100 years ago. Extend further to 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. Imagine 100,000 years into the future. Return to the present moment with a sense of your place in time's flow. Problem risk scaling. When facing a challenge, ask, will this matter in a week, a month, a year, 10 years? How might someone on the other side of the world view the situation? What would my concern look like from the perspective of the entire human species? The modern challenge. Our digital environment often narrows rather than expands our perspective. Social media algorithms feed us content that confirms our existing views. News cycles amplify immediate concerns over long-term developments, and the constant stream of urgent notifications keeps our attention fixed on the immediate and personal. This narrowing makes us more reactive, more anxious, and less capable of wise decision-making. The cosmic perspective provides an antidote by deliberately expanding our awareness beyond immediate concerns and personal viewpoints. Going deeper. The view from above doesn't diminish the importance of individual human experience. It contextualizes it. By recognizing ourselves as part of something vastly larger, we paradoxically find both humility and dignity. Humility in acknowledging our tiny place in the cosmos, and dignity in recognizing our participation in the magnificent unfolding of existence. This practice also reveals the arbitrary nature of many social distinctions and conflicts. National borders, cultural differences, and status hierarchies, while meaningful within human society, appear increasingly arbitrary when viewed from greater distances. This realization can foster a sense of human unity that transcends our superficial differences. Perhaps most powerfully, the cosmic perspective reveals the preciousness of our brief existence. When we truly comprehend the vastness of time and our momentary appearance within it, each day becomes not a burden to endure, but a rare gift to appreciate. Secret 5. The inner citadel. Cultivate an unshakable core. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. Building your inner fortress. The Stoics believed in developing what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel, a psychological fortress that remains intact regardless of external circumstances. This inner sanctuary isn't built through positive affirmations or wishful thinking, but through rigorous self-examination and principled living. The inner citadel represents a core of values that remain consistent regardless of circumstances, clear boundaries between what you can and cannot control, a source of dignity that doesn't depend on external validation, a reservoir of strength during adversity, a center of sound judgment amid chaos and confusion. This fortress isn't built in a day. Like any citadel, it requires careful design, solid foundations, and continuous reinforcement against attacks, both from external pressures and from our own destructive habits of thought. Practical application. Values clarification. Spend time identifying your 3 to 5 core values, the principles that define who you want to be regardless of circumstances. These might include courage, honesty, justice, self-discipline, compassion, or wisdom. Review these values daily and use them as decision-making filters. Judgment monitoring. Throughout your day, notice when you're making valued judgments about events. Ask yourself, is this event truly good or bad? Or am I simply assigning it that label? Can I view this neutrally as simply what is happening rather than a personal affront? What would this look like if I removed my automatic interpretation? Fortress visualization. When facing pressure to compromise your values, visualize yourself within an impenetrable fortress. Outside the walls, circumstances may change, people may criticize, and chaos may reign. But within, you remain centered in your principles. Response rehearsal. For situations that typically trigger reactive responses, prepare alternative responses aligned with your values. Practice these mentally until they become more automatic than your reactive patterns. The modern challenge. We live in a culture that often locates our worth in external factors: career success, social approval, material possessions, physical appearance, or social media metrics. This externalization of value makes us psychologically vulnerable, as our sense of self becomes dependent on factors beyond our control. The inner citadel offers an alternative, a source of worth and stability grounded in our character and choices rather than external circumstances. This isn't about isolation from the world, but about maintaining consistency and integrity amid its fluctuations. Going deeper. The inner citadel doesn't isolate us from life. It allows us to engage with it more fully. When our core sense of self isn't threatened by every setback or criticism, we can participate more openly, take worthwhile risks, and respond to challenges with resourcefulness rather than reactivity. This practice acknowledges a fundamental truth. Our happiness and effectiveness depend far more on our internal state than on external circumstances. By investing in the development of our character rather than the accumulation of status or possessions, we build a foundation that can't be easily shaken by fortune's inevitable changes. As Epictetus, who was born a slave and suffered exile and disability, observed, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." The inner citadel is what gives us the strength to follow this advice, to act excellently where we can, and to accept with equanimity what we cannot change. Secret 6. Amor fati. Love what happens. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. Epictetus. Embracing reality without resistance. Amor fati. Love of fate, or love of what happens, represents one of Stoicism's most profound and challenging ideals. It doesn't mean passive resignation to circumstances or a denial of our ability to create change. Rather, it means fully accepting reality as it unfolds, without resistance, complaint, or wishful thinking. This principle invites us to accept life exactly as it is, not as we wish it would be. Recognize that resistance to reality creates suffering. Find opportunity in every circumstance, even difficult ones. Transform obstacles into paths forward. Conserve the energy wasted in complaint and resistance. The Stoics understood that our emotional suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from our resistance to them, our insistence that reality should be different than it is. Practical application. The welcoming practice. When facing an unwanted circumstance, experiment with actively welcoming it with these steps. Acknowledge the reality. This is happening. Recognize your resistance. I notice I'm wishing this weren't happening. Actively welcome what is. I welcome this reality exactly as it is. Ask, what opportunity does this present that wouldn't exist otherwise? Reality acceptance statements. Develop personal phrases that help you shift from resistance to acceptance. This is exactly what needs to be happening right now because it is what's happening. I embrace this moment in its entirety, including the parts one don't prefer. This too is part of the complete experience I'm here to have. The reversal of perspective. For a challenging situation, ask yourself, how might I view this exact same situation as fortunate 5 years from now? What strengths or insights might this difficulty develop in me? If I were writing the story of my life, how would this chapter serve the overall narrative? The modern challenge. Contemporary culture often promotes a narrative of control. The idea that with enough effort, strategy, or manifestation, we can shape reality to match our desires. When reality inevitably deviates from our plans, we interpret this as failure rather than as the natural unfolding of a complex world. Social media amplifies this by showcasing curated versions of others' lives, creating the illusion that perfect circumstances are both attainable and normal. Against this backdrop, Amor fati offers a radical alternative. What if we could love reality exactly as it is, even while working to influence what can be changed? Going deeper, Amor fati doesn't mean abandoning goals or accepting injustice without resistance. It means bringing full acceptance to the starting point, to what is true right now, before taking action. This acceptance conserves the emotional energy wasted in denial, complaint, or wishful thinking, allowing us to respond more effectively. This principle also reveals a paradox. By fully accepting reality, including our limitations and constraints, we often discover creative possibilities that weren't visible through the lens of resistance. What initially appears as an unwelcome obstacle often contains within it the seed of unexpected opportunity. Perhaps most powerfully, Amor fati offers freedom from the exhausting effort to control the uncontrollable. When we can genuinely say yes to life as it unfolds, with all its unexpected turns, disappointment, and surprises, we discover a profound peace that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. Secret 7. Memento mori. Remember your mortality. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Marcus Aurelius. Living in light of death. Memento mori. remember that you will die, stands as one of Stoicism's most recognizable principles. Far from being morbid or depressing, this contemplation serves as a clarifying force that can transform how we live each day. By keeping death in mind, we gain perspective on what truly matters, cut through trivialities and pettiness, appreciate the precious nature of limited time, make more meaningful choices about how we spend our days, live with greater urgency and purpose. The Stoics recognize that death isn't just an event that happens at the end of life. It's a reality that gives shape and meaning to every moment that precedes it. Without the boundary of mortality, life would lose much of its preciousness and intensity. Practical application. The evening review. Before sleep, take 5 minutes to reflect. If today were my last day, would I be satisfied with how I lived it? Did I focus on what truly matters? Or was I distracted by trivialities? What would I do differently if I knew I had limited time remaining? The 5-year question. For major decisions, ask yourself, if I knew I would die in 5 years, would this still seem important? How would I approach this situation differently with a clear awareness of limited time? What would I regret not doing or being if my time were significantly shortened? Legacy reflection. Periodically imagine what would be said about you after your death. What would people remember about how you treated them? What contribution would remain after you're gone? What example would your life set for others? Use these reflections not for anxiety or morbidity, but as clarifying forces that help align your choices with your deepest values. The modern challenge. Contemporary culture often promotes a denial of death. Anti-aging products, euphemistic language about dying, and the institutional removal of death from daily life all contribute to our collective avoidance of mortality. Social media and entertainment further distract us from this fundamental reality, creating the illusion of endless time for consumption and diversion. This denial doesn't protect us. It diminishes our lives by removing the very awareness that could make our time more meaningful. Memento Mori offers an antidote by bringing death back into conscious awareness, not as something to fear, but as a reality that can enhance how we live. Going deeper. Contemplating mortality isn't about inducing anxiety or depression. When practiced thoughtfully, it produces precisely the opposite effect: a heightened appreciation for life and a liberating perspective on daily concerns. Traffic jams, minor slights, and petty annoyances shrink to their proper proportion when viewed against the backdrop of finite existence. This practice also reveals the true value of relationships. When we recognize that our time with loved ones is limited, ordinary moments take on extraordinary significance. A conversation, a shared meal, or a walk together becomes not just an event, but a precious opportunity that won't be infinitely repeated. Perhaps most importantly, mortality awareness helps us live authentically. Many of the compromises we make in our values, our use of time, our expression of truth, stem from the illusion that we'll have unlimited opportunities to correct course later. When we acknowledge the limited nature of our time, we become less willing to postpone authentic living and more motivated to align our daily choices with our deepest values. Secret 8. Practice self-observation without judgment. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. Becoming your own witness. The Stoics developed a sophisticated practice of self-observation, the capacity to witness our own thoughts, emotions, and reactions without being completely identified with them. This internal stepping back allows us to create space between stimulus and response, observe our automatic reactions without being controlled by them, recognize habitual thought patterns that cause unnecessary suffering, make more deliberate choices rather than reactive ones, develop greater psychological freedom. This practice doesn't suppress emotions or deny experiences. Rather, it creates a witnessing consciousness that can observe the full range of human experience without being swept away by it. Practical application. Labeling practice. Throughout your day, practice mentally labeling your experiences. I notice I'm feeling anxiety right now. I'm having the thought that I'm not prepared enough. I'm experiencing frustration with the situation. This simple labeling creates subtle distance between you and your experiences, reducing their automatic control over your behavior. The daily reflection. Set aside 10 minutes each evening to review your day with these questions. What emotions arose most strongly today? What triggered these feelings? What automatic interpretations or judgments appeared? How did these shape my behavior? What alternative interpretations were possible? Record your observations without self-criticism, approaching yourself with the curiosity of a scientist rather than the judgment of a critic. The pause practice. When strong emotions arise, implement a deliberate pause. Notice the physical sensations in your body. Observe your thoughts without believing or disbelieving them. Take 3 deep breaths before responding. Choose your response rather than reacting automatically. The modern challenge. We live in a culture that often encourages identification with our thoughts and emotions, treating them as who we are rather than experiences we're having. Phrases like, "I am anxious" rather than "I'm experiencing anxiety" reflect this fusion with temporary states. Additionally, our attention economy surroundings are designed to trigger emotional reactions that bypass reflection. News headlines, social media, and advertising all target our automatic responses, making self-observation increasingly difficult yet more crucial than ever. Going deeper. Self-observation reveals a profound truth. We are not our thoughts or emotions, but the awareness that can observe them. This distinction creates psychological freedom, the ability to experience the full range of human emotion without being defined or controlled by any particular feeling. This practice also reveals how much of our suffering comes from our interpretations, rather than from events themselves. When we can witness our automatic narratives about situations, "This is terrible, this shouldn't be happening, this means I'm inadequate," we gain the freedom to question and potentially revise these interpretations. The Stoics recognized that this observational capacity is what makes human freedom possible. Between stimulus and response lies a space of awareness, and in that space lies our power to choose. By cultivating this awareness, we expand the territory of our freedom, not by controlling external events, but by developing mastery over our own responses. Secret 9. Act according to nature. Align with your highest self. Live according to nature. Xenocidium. Finding your true path. The Stoic command to live according to nature has been widely misunderstood. It doesn't mean primitive living or following every natural impulse. Rather, it refers to living in accordance with our nature as rational and social beings capable of virtue. This principle invites us to identify and express our unique capabilities and strengths, align our actions with universal principles of reason and virtue, recognize our nature as inherently social and interconnected, distinguish between natural desires and artificial wants, fulfill our potential as human beings. This isn't about conforming to external expectations, but about becoming who we are at our best, expressing our unique nature while recognizing our place within the larger natural order. Practical application. Values inventory. Take time to identify your personal core values through reflection. When have you felt most alive and fulfilled? What activities engage you so completely that you lose track of time? What qualities do you most admire in others? What would you regret not having expressed or accomplished? Use these insights to identify values that represent your authentic nature. Congruence check. Regularly examine the alignment between your values and your daily actions. This is how I spend my time. Reflect what I claim is important. Are there areas where my actions contradict my stated values? What small adjustments would bring greater alignment? Nature connection practice. Spend time regularly in natural settings, using this exposure to observe natural systems and their balanced interdependence. Reflect on your place within the larger ecosystem. Consider how natural principles might inform your approach to challenges. Role reflection. Identify your key roles: parent, professional, citizen, friend, and consider, what does excellence look like in each of these roles? How do these roles interrelate and sometimes conflict? What would it mean to fulfill each role according to your highest nature? The modern challenge. Contemporary society often disconnects us from both our individual nature and the natural world. Consumer culture promotes artificial desires. Social media encourages comparison rather than authentic expression, and our digital environment can separate us from direct experience of the natural world. Furthermore, modern specialization can fragment our lives into disconnected roles that feel separate from our core identity. Against this backdrop, the Stoic call to live according to nature offers a path toward greater integrity and wholeness. Going deeper. Living according to nature involves a paradox. It requires both self-acceptance and self-development. We accept our fundamental nature while working to express its highest potential. This isn't about comparing ourselves to others, but about becoming the fullest expression of who we already are. This principle also recognizes our inherently social nature. The Stoics understood that humans are not isolated individuals, but parts of a larger social fabric. Living according to nature means acknowledging our interdependence and recognizing that our well-being is connected to the well-being of the whole. Perhaps most powerfully, this principle offers an antidote to the modern crisis of meaning. Rather than seeking purpose through external achievement or comparison, we find it through expressing our authentic nature and fulfilling our potential for virtue. This creates a sense of meaning that doesn't depend on external recognition or reward, but emerges from living in accordance with who we truly are. Secret 10. Cultivate sympathia. Develop compassionate understanding. Accustom yourself to attend carefully to what is said by another, and as much as it is possible, try to inhabit the speaker's mind. Marcus Aurelius. Recognizing our common humanity. Sympathia, a sense of mutual interdependence and shared humanity, represents one of Stoicism's most profound social insights. While modern interpretations sometimes portray Stoicism as coldly rational or emotionally detached, the philosophy actually emphasizes deep connection with others through compassionate understanding. This principle encourages us to recognize our fundamental interconnection with all humanity, develop genuine understanding of others' perspectives, respond to wrongdoing with compassion rather than condemnation, extend our circle of concern beyond immediate relationships, practice kindness as an expression of wisdom, not mere sentiment. The Stoics understood that our individual well-being is inseparable from the welfare of the whole, that we are parts of a larger social organism in which each person's actions affect everyone else. Practical application. The perspective shift. When in conflict with someone, practice this three-step process. Articulate their perspective as charitably and completely as you can. Identify the legitimate needs, fears, or values driving their position. Look for the universal human experience underlying their particular situation. The daily act of service. Commit to one deliberate act of service daily without expectation of recognition or return. This might be as simple as holding a door, offering a genuine compliment, or listening fully to someone who needs to be heard. The common humanity reflection. When encountering difficult people, silently reflect. This person, like me, wishes to be happy and avoid suffering. This person, like me, has experienced disappointments and losses. This person, like me, is doing the best they can with their current awareness. Expanding circle exercise. Regularly practice extending your circle of concern. Begin with those closest to you, family, close friends. Expand to acquaintances and colleagues. Include strangers you encounter. Extend to those with whom you disagree or conflict. Ultimately, include all of humanity. The modern challenge. Despite unprecedented global connectivity, modern life often fragments our sense of community and shared fate. Political polarization, social media echo chambers, and geographical mobility can isolate us within like-minded groups, reducing our exposure to diverse perspectives and experiences. Additionally, the modern emphasis on individual achievement and personal branding can overshadow our fundamental interdependence. In this context, the Stoic concept of sympathia offers a vital corrective, a reminder that none of us exists in isolation and that our well-being is inextricably linked. Going deeper. Sympathia isn't sentimental idealism. It's a clear-eyed recognition of reality. The Stoics understood that humans are inherently social creatures whose thriving depends on cooperation and mutual understanding. When we truly comprehend this interconnection, Kindness and consideration become not just moral ideals, but practical necessities. This principle also offers a powerful framework for responding to harmful behavior. Rather than demonizing those who act destructively, we recognize that their actions stem from faulty reasoning, inadequate understanding, or unhealed wounds. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it allows us to address it without the distorting effects of hatred or contempt. Perhaps most profoundly, sympathia expands our sense of self beyond narrow self-interest. When we truly understand our interconnection with others, the boundary between self and other becomes more permeable. Their suffering becomes, in a meaningful sense, our suffering, and their well-being becomes inseparable from our own. Secret 11. Practice philosophical journaling. Clarify through writing. For this is what it means to be educated. To learn what is your own and what is not your own. Epictetus. Writing as a tool for transformation. The practice of philosophical journaling occupies a central place in Stoic tradition. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, originally titled to himself, represents one of history's most profound examples of personal philosophical reflection. Through regular writing, the Stoics clarified their thinking through the discipline of articulation, examined their own judgments and assumptions, reinforced key principles through repetition and reflection, created a record of insights to revisit during challenging times, developed greater self-awareness through honest self-examination. This wasn't writing for an audience, but a private dialogue with oneself, a way of making implicit thoughts explicit and subjecting them to rational examination. Practical application. Morning intention setting. Begin each day with brief written reflection. What challenges might I face today? Which Stoic principles would be most helpful? What virtues do I want to embody in my interactions? Evening examination. End each day with written reflection. What went well today and why? Where did I fall short of my intentions? What lessons can I extract from today's experiences? How might I improve tomorrow? Dialogue with wisdom figures. Address written questions to historical or imagined Stoic figures. Marcus Aurelius. How would you approach the situation? Epictetus. What would you advise regarding this relationship challenge? Seneca. What perspective might you offer on this career decision? Then write responses from their perspective, drawing on your understanding of their philosophy. Value clarification writing. Periodically explore core questions in writing. What constitutes a good life? What is truly within my control? What do I fear, and are these fears rational? What progress am I making toward wisdom? The modern challenge. In our digital age, we're constantly writing texts, emails, social media posts, but rarely engaging in deliberate, reflective writing for self-examination. Our writing is typically outward-facing, crafted for others' consumption rather than for personal clarity. Additionally, the constant stream of external content can crowd out the space needed for original thought and self-reflection. Against this backdrop, philosophical journaling offers a powerful counterpractice, creating protected space for examining our own minds rather than consuming others' content. Going deeper, philosophical journaling works by making thoughts visible. When kept inside our minds, ideas remain vague and often unchallenged. The act of writing forces clarity and reveals contradictions or gaps in our thinking that might otherwise go unnoticed. This practice also creates a valuable record of change over time. By documenting our struggles, insights, and questions, we can observe patterns in our thinking and track our development. What seemed insurmountable a year ago may appear manageable now. What once confused us may now seem clear. Perhaps most importantly, philosophical journaling transforms passive philosophical knowledge into active wisdom. Reading Stoic texts provides valuable concepts, but writing about how these principles apply to our specific circumstances transforms abstract ideas into practical tools for living. As Epictetus noted, we must not just read the books, but write in our souls their contents. Secret 12. Practice the good life now. Philosophy as daily practice. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. B1. Marcus Aurelius. Turning philosophy into action. The ultimate Stoic secret is that philosophy isn't primarily about understanding concepts. It's about living them. While intellectual comprehension forms a necessary foundation, The Stoics emphasized that wisdom emerges through consistent practice rather than mere knowledge. This principle reminds us to transform abstract principles into concrete actions. Practice philosophy in everyday situations, not just during crises. Focus on small, consistent steps rather than dramatic transformations. Evaluate progress by our actions, not our intentions or knowledge. Recognize that philosophy is a lifelong practice, not a destination. The Stoics understood that we become what we repeatedly do. That character is formed not through grand resolutions, but through the accumulated effect of daily choices. Practical application. The philosophy in action calendar. For each day of the week, focus on practicing one specific Stoic principle. Monday, focus exclusively on what you can control. Tuesday, practice negative visualization. Wednesday, embrace voluntary discomfort. Thursday, adopt the view from above. Friday, strengthen your inner citadel. Saturday, practice a more fatty with whatever rises. Sunday, reflect on mortality as a clarifying force. The virtue practice. Identify specific, concrete expressions of the 4 cardinal virtues. Wisdom. Pause before responding to challenging situations. Courage. Speak truth when silence would be easier. Justice. Ensure your actions consider the welfare of others. Temperance. Practice moderation in pleasurable activities. Commit to one specific expression of each virtue daily. The obstacle as the way. When facing challenges, implement this 3-step process. Perception. How can I view this situation objectively? Without adding negative judgments? Action. What virtuous action can I take within my sphere of control? Will. How can I accept with equanimity what I cannot change? The philosophy partner system. Find a friend or colleague interested in philosophical practice. Commit to regular discussions about how you're applying philosophical principles. Gentle accountability for practicing what you profess. Sharing insights and challenges from your philosophical journey. The modern challenge. Contemporary culture often emphasizes knowledge acquisition over practical application. We can read countless books on philosophy, psychology, and personal development without translating these insights into changed behavior. This creates what philosophers call the knowing-doing gap, the space between what we understand and how we actually live. Additionally, modern life's pace and complexity can make philosophical practice seem impractical or irrelevant. Against these challenges, the Stoic emphasis on practical wisdom offers a vital reminder that philosophy's true purpose isn't theoretical understanding, but transformed living. Going deeper. Practicing philosophy, rather than merely understanding it, creates a transformative feedback loop. Each application of Stoic principles generates experience that deepens our understanding, which in turn enhances our ability to apply these principles effectively. Theory informs practice, and practice enriches theory. This emphasis on practice also democratizes philosophy. While not everyone has the time or inclination for extensive philosophical study, everyone can practice basic principles in daily life. The question isn't how much you know about Stoicism, but how consistently you embody its wisdom in your choices and actions. Perhaps most profoundly, the practice of philosophy gradually transforms not just what we do, but who we are. As we consistently act according to Stoic principles, these patterns of thought and action become increasingly natural, less a matter of conscious effort and more an expression of developed character. The ultimate goal isn't to follow Stoic rules, but to embody Stoic wisdom as a natural expression of who we've become. Conclusion. The Stoic path to excellence. The 12 Stoic secrets we've explored offer more than techniques for greater productivity or effectiveness. They provide a comprehensive philosophy for living well amid life's inevitable challenges. While modern self-improvement often focuses on changing external circumstances to match our desires, Stoicism offers a more profound approach, developing the internal qualities that allow us to thrive regardless of circumstances. This path isn't about perfection, but progress. The Stoics recognized that wisdom is an ongoing journey rather than a destination, that even the most advanced practitioner remains a prokopton, one who is making progress. This perspective invites both humility about our current state and optimism about our potential for growth. The Stoic approach also transcends the false dichotomy between self-interest and concern for others. By identifying our true interests with virtue rather than external advantage, Stoicism reveals that our highest good aligns naturally with the welfare of the whole. What truly benefits us also benefits the larger community of which we're part. Perhaps most importantly, these Stoic principles offer a path to genuine freedom, not the freedom to control all circumstances, which is impossible, but the freedom to respond to any circumstance with wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. This internal freedom remains available regardless of external conditions, making it the most reliable foundation for a well-lived life. As you integrate these principles into your daily practice, remember that Stoicism isn't about suppressing your humanity, but about expressing its highest potential. The goal isn't to become coldly rational or emotionally detached, but to develop the inner resources that allow you to engage fully with life while maintaining your center amid its inevitable storms. In the words of Epictetus, a former slave who became one of history's greatest teachers of freedom, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. In this simple formula lies the essence of Stoic wisdom and a lifetime of practice for those seeking to do their best in any circumstance. Additional resources. For those wishing to deepen their understanding and practice of Stoicism, these resources offer valuable guidance. Primary Stoic texts: Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, the personal journal of a Roman emperor, revealing the private thoughts of a philosopher king trying to live according to Stoic principles amidst the pressures of leadership. Discourses and Enchiridion by Epictetus, practical teachings from a former slave who became a renowned philosopher, focusing on personal freedom through disciplined thinking. Letters from Stoic by Seneca, correspondence addressing everyday ethical questions with practical Stoic solutions. Modern introductions to Stoicism, a guide to the good life. The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy by William B. Irvine, an accessible introduction to Stoic practice for contemporary readers. How to be a Stoic, using ancient philosophy to live a modern life by Massimo Pigliucci, a philosopher's personal journey into Stoic practice. The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman, a year of Stoic meditations with modern commentary. Stoic practices for daily life. Stoic Week, an annual online event where participants live according to Stoic principles for 1 week, with guided materials and reflections. The Stoic Fellowship, a global community of Stoic practitioners who meet regularly for discussion and practice. Daily Stoic Journal, a structured approach to philosophical journaling based on Stoic principles. Online communities and resources. r/Stoicism, a Reddit community dedicated to discussing Stoic philosophy and its applications. Modern Stoicism, an organization that promotes Stoic practice through events, research, and resources. Stoicism Today, a blog featuring articles on applying Stoic principles to contemporary challenges. Remember that reading about Stoicism, while valuable, is only the beginning. The true power of these principles emerges through consistent practice and application in daily life. As Epictetus reminds us, if you didn't learn these things in order to demonstrate them in practice, what did you learn them for?